I'm just going to move on next. I'm going to introduce our first speaker. I'm very pleased to introduce Laura Pidcock. She's held various roles in the Labour movement, including as a Labour Party MP, a Labour Party NEC. She's extremely principled, and she's somebody that fights for ordinary people for a better, fairer world. She's also the People's Assembly National Secretary, and I'm extremely proud to introduce her now as a speaker.
Single volunteer up and down the country who is making today possible. I've heard there's like 26 locations where people are demonstrating against the cost of living crisis. That is unbelievable, the speed of the mobilisation. So as the National Secretary, thank you very much to every single person who has mobilised, who's organised, flyered, who's stewarding today. Your efforts are absolutely incredible. And here we are in the beautiful Piccadilly Gardens. It's always raining in Manchester, isn't it? It has to be a wonderful city to forgive it for how many times we stand in the rain. We're surrounded by friends, by loved ones, by people that we don't know yet, but that we share a common purpose with. Our motivation, in reality, for being here today is born out of a love for one another and an acute awareness of what is happening to our society, one where exploitation, where poverty, systemic violence is now commonplace. All of our experiences, all of our collective experiences, be that the fear of the bills coming through the door, or the knock on the door because it might be a bailiff, or not having a home to call our own, or that home being infested with mould, or the fear of the rent going up, or not being able to pay the mortgage, the constant anguish that you might not be able to keep your job, or the job that you do have, that your pay is going to be cut year on year. That cut in pay, like the cut to social security, has altered the way we are all able to live. It has gutted the kind of lives that every single one of us can have. It affects our health, our life expectancy. People are getting into bed early because they can't afford to put the heating on. Children have empty bellies, for goodness sake, in our society. We've seen before our very eyes, here in Manchester, all around the country, our communities dilapidate, crumble under the weight of successive Tory governments. The brilliant NHS sold off before our eyes, and public services crumbling, straining under the weight of unrelenting cuts. And we are absorbing all of this pain every single day when we see our neighbour who isn't able to eat, or is being evicted, or having to stand up against exploitation. This has a profound effect on all of us. We know that this government have absolutely no regard for our lives, no care for our souls. They have absolutely no humanity. And we know that we're living through a cost of living crisis. And when we think about people in the United Kingdom, when we think about the bin lorry driver, was it them who created this crisis? When we think about the scaffolder or the lecturers, was it the nurses who looked after our loved ones as they were taking their very last breath on this earth? Did they create this crisis? Was it the parcel delivery drivers, or the teaching assistants, or the social care workers who have created this cost of living crisis and squandered billions? No, it was not their crisis. And so when we look at each other here today, we know that none of us created this crisis, and we will not pay for this crisis either. And so, what is our response? Because we always have one of two options, don't we, as working class people. We can lay down and we can say it's all too hard, it's too much. They have loads of the media on their side, they have wealthy friends, they have the power. It is just too hard. Or we can do as we are doing today. We can stand up, we can say enough is enough, and this is not happening in my name. We can unite as a class. We can unite as we have never united before. Industrial workers with unemployed workers, people who are facing eviction with people who are facing their homes being repossessed, factory worker with office worker, those standing here who were born here, standing shoulder to shoulder with people who have moved here, those who are experiencing being sanctioned with those who are experiencing having their pay cut. Because however, and we can never ever forget this, because however people in power try to cultivate and entrench the differences that we have, they are insignificant. They mean absolutely nothing. They dissolve and disappear when we understand our common ideological enemy. I believe that it is organic within us to be kind and gentle to one another. It's a system which brutalises. So we must be kind to each other through solidarity to build a beautiful, diverse, working class movement against their brutality. And you know what? That working class movement must unashamedly put working class people at the centre of it. And I mean, when I say working class, I mean the majority of us. There are no shortcuts, and I'll finish on this. There are no shortcuts against building this mass movement against the government and against capitalism. It will involve patience, because there really is nobody who's going to come and save us. There are no heroes. The way we defend ourselves is through collectivism. We have power in our numbers. That is what gives us our strength. We'll be there for workers taking industrial action, there for those in resisting evictions and deportation, there for those standing up against exploitation, and we will occupy every single space with our politics without shame, embarrassment or fear, and one day we will know what it feels like to be free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura, that was fantastic.